You are terrified of making massive mistakes, and that fear is the exact reason you are completely stuck right now. But here's the catch. Avoiding failure is not keeping you safe. The biggest breakthroughs in your life will actually happen the exact second you mess up completely. Welcome back. Today, we are getting straight to the point about something that is quietly destroying your potential. I want you to think about the most challenging moments in your life so far. They almost always share a common thread. They are the moments you disappointed your peers, let down your loved ones, fell short of expectations, or completely failed to accomplish a goal you set for yourself. From the very beginning of your life, the fear of failure has been deeply embedded in the culture around you, heavily programmed into your education, and wired into the way nearly every company operates. You have been fed a massive lie that failure is simply not an option. But what if I told you that everything you believe about messing up is completely backward? What if failing is not just an option, but the absolute, undeniable key to helping you grow, learn, and dominate whatever you are trying to do? Get ready, because we are completely rewiring how you look at losing. Chapter 1. The Fixed Smartphone Illusion. Let's start with a massive, incredibly common mistake you are probably making right now without even realizing it. The mistake is that you view your intelligence and your capabilities like the storage space on a smartphone. You look in the mirror and think you only have a certain amount of gigabytes up there. You think you were born with a fixed set of skills, a fixed level of smarts, and a strict limit on what you can achieve. You think that when you attempt something and fail, it is proof that you have hit your storage limit. It is proof that you simply do not have the hardware to succeed. Stop doing this immediately. This is totally false. The fix is remarkably easy. You must start treating your brain like a living, breathing muscle that physically alters its shape based on how much you stress it out. Here is a plain, everyday explanation of how your brain mechanics actually work. Years of extensive research into the mind have proven that your brain has an endless, boundless capacity to grow, change, and develop. Your brain is not a smartphone with limited storage. Every single day that you wake up, your brain is physically different from the day before. Think about going to the gym. You walk over to the rack, you pick up a tiny 2-pound dumbbell, and you do bicep curls. It feels easy. You do not break a sweat. You feel pretty good about yourself because you did the movement flawlessly. But absolutely nothing happens to your arm. Your muscles do not grow. Now, imagine you pick up a heavy, intimidating weight. Your arms shake. You strain. You try to push the weight up for one last rep, and you fail. You have to drop the weight. It hurts, and it feels like a defeat. But biologically, that exact moment of intense struggle and failure is the only thing that actually forces those muscle fibers to tear and rebuild stronger. Your brain works exactly the same way. The only true roadblock to reaching your absolute highest goals is you, or more specifically, your incorrect opinion of yourself and what you are capable of doing. Stop acting like your abilities are locked in place. When you fail, your brain is actively hitting the gym. Chapter 2. The Comfort Zone Trap. Now we move to the next roadblock, and it is a trap almost everyone falls into on a daily basis. The mistake is that you constantly hunt for the easy wins. You purposefully navigate your workday, your hobbies, and your projects, looking for the path of least resistance. You want tasks that make you feel smart, competent, and smooth. You avoid the messy, complicated projects because you do not want to look foolish or stumble. Here is the straightforward fix. You need to actively hunt for the friction. You need to seek out the extremely difficult, messy tasks where a colossal mistake is highly likely. Let me explain the behavioral reality behind this. Remember how we just talked about the brain acting like a muscle? Well, researchers and scientists have looked at the actual brain evidence, and they have found that the time your brain develops the absolute most is during times of extreme struggle. Failure is not just an accident. It is the vital, key component that allows your brain to physically create brand new neural connections. Let's use an easy analogy. Imagine you are driving a car on a perfectly smooth, freshly paved highway that you have driven down 1,000 times before. You do not even have to think about it. You can zone out, listen to music, and your brain runs on complete autopilot. That is what happens when you do easy tasks. Now, imagine you veer off the highway, park the car, and start walking into a dense, overgrown jungle with a machete. You have to hack your way through thick vines, you trip over roots, you get lost, and you have to constantly reorient yourself. It is exhausting, frustrating, and incredibly difficult. But here is the secret. Hacking through that jungle is the exact process of your brain building new pathways. The hard moments, the moments where things get wildly difficult, and where you have made a massive, colossal mistake, are actually the most valuable times in your entire life. They are quite literally packed with the biological lessons that will guide you directly toward success. Let me be brutally honest with you. If you are doing something right now, and you are finding it incredibly easy, that is actually terrible for your brain. You are cruising on the paved highway. You are not building anything new. You are not growing. So stop running away from the struggle. When you mess up big time, remind yourself that the machete is swinging and the path is being built. Chapter 3. The Double Pain Glitch. So, if we rationally know that making mistakes helps us learn, why does it feel so gut-wrenchingly awful when we fail? Why do we avoid it like the plague? This brings us to our next point. The mistake here is letting the emotional pain of a failure stop you from ever playing the game. You let the fear of a potential loss completely paralyze your decision-making. You play it safe entirely because the thought of failing literally makes your stomach turn. The fix is to realize that your brain has a built-in biological glitch, and once you recognize it, you can simply override it. You have to stop trusting your feelings when it comes to risk and start looking at the actual data. Here is the plain explanation of what is happening inside your head. According to 2 Nobel Prize-winning psychologists, human beings suffer from a psychological glitch where the effect of a loss feels exactly twice as intense as the gain from a win. Think about that for a second. The negative impact of losing is literally double the positive feeling of winning. Let's visualize this. Imagine you are walking down the street and you find a crisp $100 bill on the sidewalk. You pick it up. You feel amazing. It is a fantastic rush of excitement. Now, imagine a different scenario. You are walking down the street, you reach into your pocket, and you realize your own $100 bill fell out and is gone forever. How does that feel? It feels devastating. It ruins your entire afternoon. You obsess over it. Logically, the amount of money is exactly the same. It is just $100. But psychologically, dropping that money hurts twice as much as finding it feels good. This behavioral concept perfectly explains why people will go to completely extreme, irrational lengths just to avoid failure. It impacts our brains so much harder to fail than it does to succeed. And to make matters worse, society is systematically set up to constantly amplify this negative feeling. Once you understand that your brain is just tricking you into feeling double the pain, you take its power away. Next time you are afraid to launch that business, speak up in a meeting, or try a new skill, just tell yourself, my brain is exaggerating the risk. The pain of failing is an illusion. Call out the glitch and take the jump anyway. Chapter 4. The Report Card Hangover. This brings us to a massive societal mistake that you are carrying around every single day. The mistake is that you are still living your adult life as if you were waiting to get a red grade on a piece of paper. You act like there is an invisible teacher hovering over your shoulder, ready to dock points the second you do something wrong. The fix? You need to rip up the imaginary report card. You need to permanently disconnect your self-worth from the idea of being graded. Let's look at the mechanics of how you are programmed. You are not born terrified of making mistakes. Think about a toddler learning how to walk. They stand up, they wobble, and they aggressively face-plant into the carpet. Does the toddler sit there and think, wow, I just made a colossal mistake. I guess I am just not a walking person. Walking is not my thing? No. They immediately grab the coffee table, pull themselves up, and try again. But then, we go to school. By the time we grow up, the fear of failure has been systematically drilled into us by the school systems. In our culture, we constantly punish mistakes in all sorts of different ways, and the entire education system is built on that exact foundation. You take a test, you get a question wrong, and you are punished with a lower grade, a red mark, and a drop in your GPA. It is a terribly conflicting message for kids. On one hand, good teachers might say, we value mistakes. Struggle is good. But then the rigid testing comes in and directly punishes you for messing up. It is a hard, confusing reality to navigate. By the time you finally reach adulthood, You have been deeply, subconsciously taught that failure is an inherently bad thing. You rationally know that making mistakes is good for your brain development, but your gut still panics because you have a 12-year hangover from being graded on everything you do. You have to actively unlearn this. In the real world, there are no Scantron sheets. There are no permanent records. The most successful people in the world are the ones who fail fast, fail loud, and use the wreckage to build their next project. The imaginary teacher is gone. You are allowed to get things wrong. In fact, if you are not getting things wrong, you are moving entirely too slow. Chapter 5. The Limitless Operating System. So, how do we bring this all together? How do we actually install this new way of thinking into our daily lives? The final mistake people make is that when they finally do fail, they let that singular event define their entire identity. You lose a client and you say, "I am a terrible entrepreneur." You bomb a presentation and you say, "I am a horrible speaker." You fuse your identity with the failure. The fix is incredibly simple. You must adopt a growth mindset and detach your identity from your results. You have to fundamentally change the way you view a mistake. Here is what a growth mindset looks like in plain terms. It means you operate with an unshakable confidence in your raw ability to do anything, to learn anything, and to achieve whatever you want, as long as you put in the reps. It means you view failure as external data, not an internal death sentence. Think about playing a video game. You are running through a level, you miss a jump, and your character falls into a pit of lava. Game over. Do you immediately throw the controller at the wall, declare yourself a worthless human being, and never play video games again? No. You say, okay. The jump is further than it looks, and there is a hidden trap on the right side. You press restart. You use the failure as pure data to map out the level so you can beat it on the next try. You need to treat your life, your career, and your goals with that exact same video game mentality. When you faceplant, gather the data, figure out where the lava is, press restart. Let me be clear with you. Failing is never going to feel completely easy or warm and fuzzy. It is always going to sting a little bit. But based on incredible research and what we are constantly discovering about the limitless possibilities of our minds, it is absolutely essential that you actively learn to embrace that sting. When you fully understand that your brain physically grows during the struggle, when you realize your fear of loss is just an overblown biological glitch, and when you stop waiting for a passing grade from society, everything shifts. You will instantly transform your crippling fear of failure into an incredibly powerful opportunity to discover what is truly possible for your life. And if you are a leader, a manager, or running a business, the absolute most important thing you can do right now is build an organizational culture around you that actually encourages aggressive exploration and rewards people for making mistakes. Stop playing it safe. Stop trying to protect your ego. Go out there, swing for the fences, and let yourself fail. It is the only way you are ever going to see what you are truly capable of. And hey, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Also, let me know your thoughts on what I just shared.